when I moved to Belgium, because recycling, it wasn't presented as a choice, it wasn't presented as something that you might think about doing, it was just that was how it was. There was really no discussion around it, and I think that's one of the most interesting things is how you move that discussion around recycling to, it's not about extracting stuff from the residual waste stream, it's about separating stuff as you go. And I think the more that we can put in place policy and legislation that promotes that way of thinking, then I think that's how we get to be more successful. When I look at deposit return, I think that in many ways it's an idea that was appropriate several decades ago when we didn't have curbside recycling. But now that we do have curbside recycling, I'm not entirely sure that the benefit of a deposit return scheme would be commensurate with the investment that would be required to put it in place. And I think that there are some very clear examples of, for instance, there have been companies that have been running deposit return schemes and have recently terminated them because people just weren't bringing the containers back. So I can see why there can be merit in the idea of it, but I'm just not convinced that it's fully appropriate in today's landscape, given all the other ways that we have of recovering and recycling packaging material. And I think there's always a balance. I think if you have the correct voluntary scheme, which is what I would argue the Charter is, then yes, councils will take it up because it makes sense. And that was very much the principles that we had behind it. So when we put the Charter together and this three-stream approach, was we wanted something that would achieve our objectives, that would get us to where we wanted to go and would allow councils to be able to deliver it. So I think if you have a voluntary scheme that is actually appropriate, then yes, people will sign up to it. But there's always circumstances where you do have to legislate. The concern I have around legislation is that it takes away a lot of the flexibility and delivery that you get with a voluntary scheme, and sometimes that flexibility is essential if you actually want to make it properly work in practice. I think we're obviously still working through our approach to the package and to the recent revisions that have been put forward. I think in general, yes, we welcome the approach to the circular economy package, but we're very clear on the principle of again, it's that balance between targets that should be set at a European level and then what's appropriate to be set at a national level. So we want to make sure there's a balance around those things. But yes, in general, we welcome the approach, and I think there needs to be clarity around what do we mean by the circular economy and what levers and policies do we need to put in place to promote the behaviours and the changes that we need to see.